everyone, welcome back to the Fortitude Fix. I hope you're well. My name is DaShanna and this is my first trimester update. I have sickle cell disease type SC hemoglobin, and so I have decided to document and share this journey here on my YouTube channel, and I hope that you would join me. So if you have not subscribed, if you are a new viewer, please consider subscribing. Go ahead and click that subscribe button and stick around for a while. If you are a returning family member of mine here on the internet, thank you so much for being here, and let's get into this video. Let's start recapping what happened throughout the whole trimester, and yeah, if it's something you're interested in, just keep on watching. The reason why I decided to do this type of video as opposed to start each and every week, I wasn't feeling horrible, but I wasn't trying to be in front of a camera, if that makes sense. So I took notes in my phone, so I have all the weeks. I recapped all the weeks in my phone, so I will go ahead and share that info with you. All right, so I guess I'm gonna start this video out before I even knew I was pregnant. So I found out I was pregnant on literally the exact, to the day, week 4 that I was pregnant. If you haven't seen that video yet, go ahead and click up here in the iCards, the finding out I was pregnant video with the live pregnancy test. I will also link it down below. So that was literally the day that I missed my period, and the reason why I'm using quotes here is because the day wasn't even over yet, but my body is so kind of regular in that regard that it was 5-something p.m. and I hadn't gotten my period yet on the day that it was supposed to come, and that is not like me. Number one, my period comes on the day it's supposed to come all the time. The only times in the past that it didn't were when there were extenuating circumstances and there was maybe high stress going on, but typically all the time on the exact day. Also, on the day that my period is due, it not only comes, but it comes well before 5 p.m. So I knew that day that something was a little off, but that video is hilarious, so go check that out if you haven't already. So I guess you could say weeks 1 through 3, where I didn't know I was pregnant, I took down some notes, not that many. I said that there were 2 or 3 nights where I couldn't sleep at night. I was waking up at like the most random times, and it didn't make any sense. I couldn't go back to sleep. I was having really hard times with that. Also, I was really hot and my husband was cold, and that never happens. There were moments where he was fine or he was a bit chilly and I was saying I was hot. That never happens. He is so hot. Yeah, but he was so like just warm body temperature wise all the time. He's always the one who's saying it's hot. He wants to open a window, turn the fan on or something like that, and I'm the one who's always bundled up. For this 1 or 2 times throughout this 1 to 3 week period, that was reversed, and so that was also something that was really interesting. And lastly, in weeks 1 to 3, I had this weird like vertigo feeling, and it's so funny to think back on it now that maybe that was a pregnancy symptom. Was I would be sitting down minding my own business just like this, and I remember being at work and literally the room would go like this, like it would like go maybe like 1.5 2 times, and I would sit like kind of like when you're on a roller coaster and you're just like, ah, you know, but it happened so quick and I felt just like dizzy, and so I didn't stand up. I didn't try to get up or do anything in that moment. I just sat and waited for it to pass. And then I remember that time specifically, I told my my supervisor about it, and I ended up going home that day. It happened another time, but it happened when I was at home before I went into work. So that was weird. That had never happened to me before. So that's what happened in weeks 1 through 3. In week 4, baby is the size of sprinkles. So like the individual sprinkles. I like to look at baby size by sweets, and so baby at week 4 is the size of sprinkles. The information that I have on baby at week 4 is that following implantation, the embryonic cells start to differentiate and separate into something called an embryonic disc, and then it begins to establish its 3 primary germ layers. So this is very early on, before it even really looks like a baby or a fetus. That's what's going on. The first layer will form the digestive system, liver, and lungs of the baby. The second layer will form the heart, muscles, kidneys, bones. And the third layer will form the nervous system, the hair, the skin, and the eyes. So that's what was going on in week 4. Week 4 was the actual week that I found out that I was pregnant. Week 4 was technically 14 DPO, or days past ovulation, when I took the test. So I was pregnant. I took a pregnancy test and it was positive. If you check out my video, I actually took 2 in the video. In real life, I took about 4, if not 5 tests on that day. I told my husband that I was pregnant that exact day that it happened. So if you want to see that video, go ahead and click the iCards. I'll leave it down below as well, telling my husband I was pregnant. And then we also told both of our moms on the day that we found out. So I went over to my mom's house and told her in person. And then we FaceTimed his mom, who is down in Southern California, and we talked to her. And we just wanted our closest prayer warriors to be informed that they can just start immediately praying for us, which they did, and that was awesome. So at 4 weeks 1 day, so the next day, the very next day, I made myself an appointment, and so I went in. I had the doctor's appointment to do blood work to confirm the pregnancy. They tested my betas, and so really quick, if you all don't know, the HCG is the pregnancy hormone, if you will. I'll put the technical name down here for you. However, the at-home pregnancy test whether or not that hormone is present or not. So that's why you will see 1 line or 2 lines, or you will see the plus sign or the word that says pregnant. It's testing to see if that hormone is present at all. The beta test is when you find out how much of the hormone is in your body at that time. So what's the level? And so the beta HCG test is a blood test. And so I went in for that the very next day. My initial beta reading was 2,667. Why is that number so hard for me to say? 2,667. That was my initial beta result. And that was it. The doctors knew. I know. They told my hematologist, they told my general doctor. I saw an OB. It wasn't my OB. They were actually on vacation at the time, so I saw a new OB, and it was put in my chart that I was pregnant, so it was confirmed. At 4 weeks 4 days, so about 4.5 weeks pregnant, there was some spotting, some pink spotting that I found, and it really made me nervous, because not only did I notice spotting, I also saw a pregnancy test line regression. You might be familiar with a lot of folks showing you their pregnancy test progression as the line gets darker and darker and darker. For me, the pregnancy test that I showed in my video was very, very bright. It was very blazing positive. However, the line, as I continued to test, because of the spotting I saw, the line was getting more and more faint. So I was a little bit scared, because I was afraid that my hormone levels were decreasing. And because I had the spotting as well, I emailed my doctor immediately, and then I was brought in for some more blood work. So I went in to have another beta test done, and my levels there, I was at about almost week 5 when this happened. I was very, very close to the end of week 4. And my betas were 11,578. So in that, 3-day span or so, my HCG levels went from the 2,667 to 11,578. So everything was fine. The spotting that I had at that time in week 4 was normal, nothing was wrong, and my HCG levels were doubling and quadrupling and doing what they needed to do on par. I also emailed my cardiologist during this time, so I am going to be posting some of my preconception doctor's appointments that I had even before we were trying, because again of the sickle cell and all of the things that I just want to make sure were in line, and all the testing genetically that we could do preconception wise, and just get like a baseline of all of my levels. So I did a series of preconception testing and doctor's appointments. So one of them included something that had to do with my heart, and so I saw a cardiologist, and I'll explain all of that in those videos when those come up. However, there was nothing wrong, and so there was a cardiac mass that was listed on my chart, and because that wasn't a mass in my heart that they saw, that I asked for it to be removed. So when I went to see the OBGYN again that next day, when I did the testing, I sent an email and I wanted that cardiac mass note to be removed, since there isn't one, and I don't want doctors looking at my chart seeing wrong information. I believe that it was supposed to be removed a while ago, but maybe the doctor just didn't have the time. It was put there because they thought that they did see something. It was found out that there was nothing, so I wanted to make sure that was removed. And the last thing that happened during week 4 is I noticed that there was a rash on both sides of my face. It was like right here, and it was like these tiny bumps, and it would just line the sides of my face, like hairline down to the outside of my ears, and it would just be so itchy. And so like in the middle of the night, because you're sleeping like this, you know, or on this side, it would just be itchy, and I was like itching my face. And so it wasn't anything noticeable like, ooh, you have zits all over your face, but it was just annoying. So that was there as well. Baby in week 5 has a 2-chambered heart. It says your little one now has a 2-chambered heart, which basically looks like a tube that has twisted back onto itself. All right, thanks. The heartbeat starts beating on or around day 21 after conception. So this is day 35 of pregnancy. And your baby's spinal cord is beginning to form. Your baby is growing a thin layer of skin to cover everything up. So that's what's happening in week 5, which is super exciting. And as you know, I do the sweets. So in week 5, baby was the size of a Smartie, which it's not called Smarties here. In America, it's called like an M&M. So anyways, an M&M is the size of baby in week 5. Week 5, I had a phone appointment with the medical assistant. For some reason, I was waking up at 2 a.m. every single morning, which was really weird. I completed all of the pregnancy related surveys that I needed to do online before my first prenatal appointment. I set the date for my very first ultrasound. I was feeling super bloated and heavy at week 5. I remember not wanting to sleep on my stomach. Not that it was bad at this point in pregnancy, but it was just uncomfortable even at week 5. I was out of breath extremely easily in week 5. There was a little bit of discharge. Some of what I noticed in the very beginning of week 5, kind of residual from the end of week 4, which I mentioned earlier. It was really, really hard for me to wake up in the mornings. Like I would wake up, my alarm would go off for work, and I would just be so sad, like on the verge of tears. Like I was so tired. I just did not want to go. And again, that rash that I mentioned was still there on both sides. And for some reason in week 5, there was a ton of burping. I was burping a lot in week 5. So that was definitely a thing. Week 6, baby is the size of a jelly bean. Aww. According to my app, baby is developing a brain. It is developing very fast. And make sure that your baby's head is much larger in proportion to the rest of the body. The inner ear is taking shape and the eyelids are beginning to develop. Baby's eyes are now starting to form. And also the cartilage. Cartilage is beginning to form in the arm and the leg buds, which will eventually grow into really strong bones. Week 6 is where I'm starting to really feel a bit of morning sickness. I'm feeling more so the nausea than anything. I did wake up one morning and I drank some water. I was really thirsty, so I drank some water, and then immediately that water came back up because of the nausea that I was feeling. So that was something that was really seriously taking place in week 6. Tons of nausea. I woke up one day in the week and I just felt completely normal, as if I wasn't pregnant. So I was feeling kind of strange. I'm not sure if any of you can relate, but if this is your first pregnancy, you know what it feels like to not be pregnant, and then all of a sudden you are, and you're like, this is new, so this must be pregnancy. But then when that new thing stops, it kind of confuses you, and you're like, oh, I don't feel that thing anymore. I'm not quite sure. Am I still pregnant? Is everything okay? So that's what I was dealing with. Yes, I took yet another pregnancy test, and there was a blazing positive, so I was still pregnant. The burping still was there. I had this urge and like this feeling that I really wanted to tell my friends. I wanted to tell the people that I love, outside of our moms. So I wanted to tell people, but we didn't, of course. I was waking up early to go pee. I wanted sour stuff and bubbles. I remember this week specifically, I went to go buy lime popsicles, which I don't think I've bought before. I bought from Trader Joe's, and then I got some ginger beer. Wanted the ginger beer. And I don't know, but like, what is going on? Nobody told me about these pokey nipples. Like, my nipples were so like sharp, like pokey. The pokey nipples were real in week 6. All right, everyone, let's get into week 7. So in week 7, my app says that tiny paddle-like structures are beginning to form, which will eventually become the hands and the feet. The eyelids are almost complete. The iris is beginning to form, which will determine the baby's eye color. And tiny little teeth buds are developing underneath the gums, and the breathing tube, which connects to the lungs, is forming now. Aww. Okay, that is so cute. Let me tell you all how I felt during week 7. I was super anxious in week 7. I was ready for my ultrasound that was gonna happen the following week, and I talked to my husband a lot about baby names and what we were thinking, what we liked, what we didn't like. I was really still very groggy in the mornings. My alarm would go off and I was just like, oh, I don't want to get up. I felt like I wasn't well rested. I felt a tiny bit more energy than in previous weeks, like throughout the day or toward the evening, than I did in previous weeks. But literally by 4 or 5 o'clock p.m. I was ready for bed, and I was just sleepy. I know for the past couple of weeks I've been talking about this face rash. Well, in week 7, the face rash that I was talking about that was like on both sides of my face finally started to clear up, and I wasn't like itching throughout the night, you know, having slept on my pillow, so that was a very, very good thing. On the opposite end of that though, I did start to see random pimples show up. They were pretty tiny, but still noticeable, and they were happening across my forehead in like random 3 or 4 different places, but I was glad that the rash was gone, at least, so. And then again, y'all, what is with these pokey nipples? Nobody told me that my nipples would start to just become flippin' little like pointy things that hurt and that were sensitive to clothing and sleeping, and yeah. So anyway, the pokey nipples continue. All right, so thank you all so much for watching. That is the end of my first trimester recap, and I will see you all in part 2.